Good. So we're going to have our first second non-paid speaker. I've tried to increase his compensation every year, but it goes nowhere. It's Bob Jones. And while I get his presentation up, I don't know, Bob, you want to just do a lot of, you can talk about this, Bob.
Thank you. It's hard to believe that once upon a time there was no C function. And I had been making my living as a professional musician and decided that I was never going to stop playing music, but it was a god-awful way to make a living. And I would have to break down and go to business school. And I chose MIT because I could spell it. And by the spring, we had a treasury. I had an apartment full of amplifiers, and I wanted a beer. And so I hustled a spot in the faculty club and just sent something around to everybody and said, "Are you feeling frazzled? Would you like a beer?" And it was a Thursday afternoon because nobody had Friday classes. And everybody committed atrocities and came back to class around Tuesday and said, "That was great, let's do it again." And the tradition began. So, how many of you are thinking of participating, in the 100K competition? Okay. How many of you are actually thinking of going into entrepreneurship as your next deal, your next business? Okay, well, you need therapy and probably medication. How many of you are involved in a venture right now? Oh my God, the level of psychosis is high. How many of you have already been through one company and are on to the next ones? This is great. And have any of you taken this course before? Way in the back. Well, there's not many people who voluntarily repeat courses, particularly at MIT. So what brought you back?
I did the first one virtually, and it was valuable to me, so now I came back to experience it in person.
Speaking of needing medication. I am glad, however, you found it valuable. So thanks for coming back. Okay, well, Joe has given you an overview, and I guess my talk will start the actual practicum. And I intend to ask you guys questions periodically, and our TAs put their track shoes on, so they will be running up and down with microphones when the time comes. I think we've covered this. Oh, I do have one other question. How many of you have already put in 2 to 4 years of corporate employment or working for somebody? Okay, then I want to offer one other possible answer to the question Joe asked you about why would you consider entrepreneurship? And he had a list of things. You see something that's broken, you want to fix it. It's a big problem. You think maybe you'll make a lot of money and live a glamorous life. I think maybe there could be one more, which is that you just cannot stand sitting in another corporate meeting listening to some knothead yammer on and on about something that they know nothing about in order to get airtime. I see some people nodding, yes, yes. So far, so good. And in fact, you would like your independence so much that if you have to take a cut and pay, you'll do it. Okay, well, this is a niche market. Welcome. There's some basic skills you're going to need if your venture is going to succeed. I'm going to talk about 1 or 2 of them. Finding your customer, figuring out how you're going to make money. It's extraordinary to me how frequently I listen to people who talk about their brilliant idea and their awesome technology and their spectacular algorithms. And I say, how are you going to make money? And they think, oh, oops. Organization, people issues, legal issues. How do you sell something? I have watched countless founders twist themselves into a pretzel to avoid having to actually talk to somebody. Well, we do surveys, we do text messages, it's negotiating skills. This becomes important not only when you hire employees, et cetera, but I've been in situations where Walmart called and said, I'd like you to come down to always lovely Bentonville, Arkansas. Spent a whole week there one night. And we want to talk about how much we propose to pay you for this product that you're selling. Negotiating skills become important. Understanding finances, which I thought was about the most boring thing possible until it was my money. Raising capital. Well, interestingly, that's pretty close to being the syllabus for the nuts and bolts course. So congratulations on signing up for this. Tonight's agenda, I'm going to offer you what I think are a couple of hot tips on how to find your customer and succeed with your venture. I'm going to tell you a couple stories, a couple of product launches I led. I'm going to ask you, since I'm still in the game, what should I learn from this? Maybe you learn something. There'll be an opportunity, of course, interactive all through this, but at the end as well if you have any final questions. So, quick word or two on my background. It probably falls into three buckets: business, innovation, and music. I started 4 companies with docs out of Harvard Med School. Between startup number 3 and number 4, I put in a couple of years as a CEO of a public company that was a turnaround. Who knows what a turnaround is? No, you do. What's a turnaround?
Company that's headed in the wrong direction.
It was worse than that. Company was a dreadful mess and had been losing money for quite a while. And they had to bring in somebody to fix it. There's absolutely nothing innovative or glamorous about it. The company was a mess. I fired 75 people, did a bunch of things that were not glamorous at all, fixed it. I've had a couple normal jobs through MIT's venture mentoring service and a couple of organizations like that. It's been my good fortune to work with more than 100 companies. I went to a couple schools. I wrote a book. It's available on Amazon. After hours, I'm still playing music. Played 3 nights last week, as a matter of fact. And I do a fair amount of volunteer work with people in homeless shelters, often with other musicians, sometimes by myself. In fact, there's a shelter for homeless women on Albany Street called Pine Street Inn. For the 4th year in a row, I'm going in on Valentine's Day, and I'm going to be the nerdy guitar player sitting in the corner playing nonviolent music while they bring in probably 120 people. Local school kids made up cards for each of them with crayons. They all get a little makeup kit. There's a photographer there with crazy wigs. There's a nail station, et cetera. It's really nice. And I put in a couple of hours with that. Okay, some years ago, at the end of a previous recession, the Wall Street Journal took a look at which companies survived the recession and which ones didn't. And the survivors fell into 2 categories. Either they became cost leaders and aggressively cut their costs, that's not you, or they became innovators who focused on building a brand. And key to their success was they asked this question: how is your end user dissatisfied? And of course, at an august institution like this, we're inclined to think, well, it's got to be artificial intelligence or high tech or biotech. No, if there's 50 kids in town who want a bicycle and there's no bicycle shop, that's an unmet need and it's an opportunity. But smoking out how your end user is dissatisfied turns out to be key criterion. So I'm going to make a bold assertion. You are welcome to disagree. I think your business might survive, but it will not prosper until you understand what you're really selling. Could be security, could be making you look good, it could be any number of things. But you're not really selling a product, you're not really selling a service. You're selling a solution to a problem that somebody wants to pay you to solve. So what are you really selling? And who wants it, not who needs it. Huge pitfall for those of you in the healthcare world. You knock yourself out figuring out who needs it. You never ask yourself, do they want it? How are you going to find them? It's a big world out there. And then, of course, the key question, how will I make money? So there's some fundamental questions you should ask as you think about your venture. And as Joe points out, the questions sometimes are simple. The answers are not. These are fundamental. What's broke that we fix? And who cares? And that's not a rhetorical question. Specifically, who cares? If I have a smoking hot lawnmower and you live in a high-rise and don't have any grass, you don't care, right? It's not complex. Will they spend money to solve the problem? Well, I do a lot of work with startups. They don't have any money. Terrible way to make a living. Hence the volunteer work. How do I find them? How do I let them know that, what we are doing and why they might want it? What are they doing to solve the problem now? Because if they're not doing anything to solve the problem, it might not be a problem. You might be indulging your own interest in technology rather than creating something that somebody will pay you for. Why will they find my solution better? And who exactly is going to pay me? I bump into situations over and over in healthcare. People say, oh my God, obesity is this huge epidemic and the consequences are terrible and there's all these people and it costs $1 gazillion in healthcare and I have a solution. And I say, great, who's going to pay you for it? Will it be the consumer? Maybe. Will it be the doctor? Doubtful. Will it be a healthcare plan? Will it be the hospital? I mean, there are answers, but I run into a lot of entrepreneurs who don't think that through. How many of you are thinking about raising capital? Yeah, it's kind of unavoidable after a while. Well, how does this affect that? Most sophisticated investors know that most of their investments are going to lose money. In fact, 7 or 8 out of 10 will lose money. So if my Aunt Millie died and left me a couple $1 million, and I think I'd like to invest it in all of you in this row, and I think, well, you guys are all smart, and charming, hardworking, probably kind to animals. Most of you are going to fail. So my job is to figure out which of you is least likely to fail. And there's a non-negotiable requirement. Your venture sooner or later has to have customers. So you don't have to be smart. You don't have to have money. You don't have to be good looking. You have to have customers. If you have enough customers, you'll look really smart, you'll make money, and if you make enough money, people will think you're good looking. Sorry, I lived in California for a while. So, the obvious questions, do you have any customers? Will you have any? Do you even know you need them? And then, how much is your customer worth? Let's say I ask this gentleman, how much money does your startup have to make in your second year in order to survive? And he says, $1 million. And I say, how much is your customer worth? And he says $1,000. A little bit of arithmetic tells me he needs 1,000 customers. How are you going to do that? Right? So there's two descriptors that you want. You would like to be important, and you would like to be unique. So let's have an example or two. I think most of us will agree that air is important, probably not unique. And I don't want you to burst into tears, but most of us would agree that MIT decals might be unique, but probably aren't that important. So can you build a business selling air? Well, I'm going to stand here and look at you until one of you answers. So can you build a business selling air?
To the right customer.
Up. Use the microphone, please.
To the right customer.
Tell me more.
Somebody who doesn't have air would really want to buy air. Right. Somebody who doesn't have air.
Scuba divers. Good answer. Okay. Are any of you guys scuba divers? I was doing my checkout dive off of Catalina Island, down about 100 feet, which was stupid, swimming through the kelp beds. Happened to look at the thing on my wrist and thought, uh-oh, I'd pay a lot of money for more air right now. Okay? Any of you guys own cars? Do you ever go to the station and put quarters in that machine in order to put what in your tires? Right? And what about bubble wrap? I was going to bring some tonight as a prop, but every time I've ever handed it to anybody, they become completely neurotic and pop every one. Right? Do you know how much money that company makes? $10 billion in revenue. Sealed Air Corporation. So, and if I told you, I have an idea for a business where your cost of goods is going to be about 49 cents and you can sell it for somewhere between $8 and $10, you'd say, pretty good business. Right? So the message here is to figure out who will find what you're selling to be important and unique, or at least better. Figure out how to find them, tell them about your offering, take their money. So far, so good? Okay, I promised 2 stories. Here's the first one. Background. I moved to California, lovely Orange County, and was running the clinical nutrition division of a company in the healthcare field. The background here was the company had been doing $200 million a year annual revenues for 12 years, and an entrepreneur bought them in a leveraged buyout, fired most of the senior management team, and said, I want to bring in some energetic, entrepreneurially inclined senior execs and bump this up 50% in revenue in 3 years and then go public. So here's a little stock for you, here's a little stock for you, a little stock for you, and let's not argue. Let's make a valuable business. Well, I was running the nutrition division, and the nutrition division at the time, we sold a lot of IV fluids to hospitals. We'd make a liter of an amino acid solution for about $3 and sell it for $70. Profitable. So I was responsible for a large percentage of the company's gross profit. Problem was there were a whole series of changes coming in the marketplace. And my business was going to go away. And that would threaten our ability to go public. And all of that stock, worthless. I kind of felt compelled to explore a new opportunity. And I found one. It was a potential repositioning of the company. And nobody in the country had done it. We were the first to tackle it. That, by the way, should be a major red flag. You should put those words, no one's ever done this before, on your tombstone. So here's the background. We were in the kidney dialysis business, or at least I spotted an opportunity. At the time, there were 400,000 dialysis patients. Tragically, the market was growing, but the patients showed up 3 times a week at one of 2,300 dialysis centers in the country, all of which were listed in a public register. So I could find you, and I knew where you were going to be 3 days a week. Now, if your kidneys fail, you can't casually do what so many of us do because you can't eliminate the fluids. Fluid retention is the term. It's not uncommon to gain between 8 and 10 pounds between Monday and Wednesday. Drives everybody crazy. So you become fluid restricted. But because of other functions that your kidneys provide you, you also become clinically malnourished. So the doc prescribes nutrition supplements, all of which are liquid. Ensure, Boost, things like that. Well, I'm not real smart, but I thought about that, and I thought, that's a problem. Maybe we can do something about it. So we formulated a nutrition supplement that was high in what you needed, low in what you shouldn't have, didn't have any fluid, looked a lot like a candy bar. We were not required to do clinical trials because technically this was a food. Ethically, we did it anyway. Those of you who know California are familiar with Kaiser Permanente. We ran a clinical trial. We got it published in a peer-reviewed journal. This was considered gold standard science. And it worked. All your blood chemistry is improved, life expectancy improved, et cetera. We said, wow, hot stuff. How do we get it to the market? Well, we know the patients see a doctor regarding their dialysis regimens, and they see a dietitian regarding what they ought to eat. No hot dogs. So we knew how this model works. There are opinion leaders at the top, and God, and then the apostles, all that stuff, right? So we asked them, what do you think of this? Would you recommend it? They said, yeah. Well, for how many of your patients? All of them. How many days a week? 7. Really? How do you feel about $3 a bar? Well, I think that sounds right. Math, jeez. It's going to be a pretty good little business. How's it stack up against the competition? Well, you don't have any. They're all liquids. We said, well. I think we found the revenue we were going to lose. IPO, here we come. So we brought in the photographers, took the beauty shots, developed commission plans, brought the sales force in, trained them on it, went to market. Complete disaster. Absolute flop. Ruined a year of my life. I'll tell you more about that in a moment. But every month we'd have a forecast. Every month we came in at somewhere between 5 and 6% of that forecast. So why? What did I do wrong? And by the way, we may hand you a microphone because I want to hear what you have to say. Yes, sir. What did I do wrong?
Potentially the end user was a mismatch. You sold to the doctor, needed to get to the client, well, needed to get to the patient.
And why was that a mistake?
The buyer.
I'm sorry, say again?
The buyer.
The doctor wasn't buying it. Okay, good answer. Who else? What else? Jim.
The commitment, the 7-day commitment on the patient's end, as far as knowing, wanting to commit versus being told they need to commit, if that makes sense.
Try that again.
Okay, so as the patient,
Yeah.
we're in a McDonald's fast food type society. People want results immediately.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't want to put maybe the work in or the commitment. Am I on the right track or no?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Okay. There's a cascade of things that we did wrong, some more important than others.
Maybe it didn't taste good.
Well, now that's actually more interesting than you might think. We did think it tasted good, but we didn't have failed kidneys. And it turns out that when your kidneys fail, protein tastes like spoiled meat. Oops. So that was an issue. It wasn't the deal breaker, though. Somebody else? Go ahead, sir.
You assumed doctors could sell bars in their place of business?
Actually, that never crossed our minds. Probably should have retained you. All right. Let's talk about this. We surveyed the clinicians. Clinicians didn't buy it. Clinicians didn't need it. Problem number one. When we finally talked to the patients, they didn't want it, and they couldn't afford it. Now, this was baffling to me. At first, we had something that had been clearly demonstrated to improve most of the metrics associated with good health. Why would they not want it? Let's ask a fundamental question. Who gets kidney failure? Which we didn't think to ask. 44% of them get there from a lifetime of mismanaging their high blood pressure. 33% of them get there from a lifetime of mismanaging their diabetes. So 3/4 of our target market had never taken care of themselves. And we're not about to change now. There was one other problem, which we totally didn't foresee. The retailers wouldn't carry it. We had been selling solutions to hospitals. We didn't know anybody on the retail pharmacy channel. Our target customers weren't going to go into a hospital to try and buy it. They wanted to buy it from a pharmacy. Well, how do you get on the shelf in a pharmacy? We had no idea. So I stood around in a couple of pharmacies and watched how the pharmacist answered the phone. And if you would like to see a pharmacist burst into laughter, well, first, here's how they answered the phone. Pharmacy. And if you say, I have a product you've never heard of from a company you've never done business with for a group of patients who don't want it and can't afford it, and I'd like to be on your shelves, it just made his whole day. Well, eventually, one of them took pity on my poor bedraggled self, and he said, Bob, so you see this linear foot of shelf space? We carry products on that foot of shelf space. And we have some pretty robust algorithms that tell us how much revenue we're going to make each month per linear foot of shelf space. Now, if I move those products off the shelf and put yours on it, I can't think of any reason why I ought to lose money. So get out your checkbook. These are called slotting fees. You pay to get on the shelf. How much? Well, at CVS at the time, it was $1 million a quarter, plus 6.5% of your top line revenue, plus it was what's called a guaranteed sale, meaning if they put it on the shelf and it didn't sell, they would send it back to you for a full refund. I said, oh. So in a longer conversation, we'll talk about the importance of understanding your distribution channels. So I mentioned this ruined my life. Let me feel sorry for myself in front of you for a minute or so. We were on track to show Wall Street we were a good candidate for a public offering. And my colleagues and I all stood to increase our net worth if this went through. But my shortfall put that IPO at risk, which meant I was not the most popular guy in the company. And we'd have these senior management meetings each month where, I don't know, top 15 or so of us in the company would gather in a room and we'd review results. And they'd say, so Bob, how's Regain doing? Your forecast was $400,000. How'd you do? I'd say, 18. Oh, what? 18,000. Well, you know, I would tap dance a little bit and say it's just taking us longer to get traction than we expected, and don't worry, the results will come, and et cetera, et cetera. But they didn't. It was like a slow motion train wreck. Every month, the train got more and more wrecked. And it went on for an entire year. So I thought, you know, there's still 25% of these patients who do take care of themselves. Somewhere they got scarlet fever, they were in a car accident, something damaged their kidneys. I'm going to find them. And furthermore, I'm going to figure out a way to get it reimbursed. Now, you probably know that Medicare takes care of you if you're old, and Medicaid takes care of you if you're broke. That's an oversimplification. Medicaid is managed by the states. So what do you think are the chances that Massachusetts and Connecticut have the same regulations? So getting reimbursed in 40 states was about as much fun as 40 root canals. We felt really bad, and we found an outfit that specialized in these patients who had money, and we sold the business for about $1 more than we spent on it. So we sort of dodged that bullet. And thankfully, I overachieved in my other areas of responsibility. We did have the IPO, and I sort of escaped. Example number 2. By this point, just to show you that entrepreneurship is a form of mental illness, I had launched 2 more of these things, did a bit better, gained the attention of the docs at Harvard, who hauled me across the country, and we started a company together. And we selected diabetes as the field, based on some stuff I happened to know about it. Quick profile, this was then. At the time, there were 10 million people diagnosed with diabetes. The general thought process was that once you get it, you can never not have it. You can manage it, but it's incurable. Some evidence that that may not be the case these days, but back then that's the way it was. The goal was to keep your blood sugar from going too high or too low. So you want to restrict the bandwidth of the fluctuation. At the time, there were 4 million of those 10 million who were using insulin injected in order to lower their blood sugar, and everyone who took insulin at the time was at risk of having their blood sugar go too low. Well, you might say, well, what are the consequences of this? If your blood sugar stays too high for too long, that's hyperglycemia. It causes blindness, kidney failure, and frequently leads to amputation of your extremities, starting with your feet. It's catastrophic. It takes a while, but it's bad. On the other hand, if your blood sugar drops too low, there's an immediate consequence. You faint. Or prior to fainting, you may exhibit slurred speech and signs that cause people to think that you and my cousin Jack Daniels have spent too much time together. So, the goal of all of this was to try and restrict the blood glucose fluctuations to appropriate band. Where hypoglycemia really becomes a problem is at night, because most people who practice what's called tight control would eat 3 meals a day, 3 small snacks a day. But that system breaks down at night. Oh, and routine injections, small injections of insulin, because nobody's going to wake themselves up 2 or 3 times a night, eat a snack, and inject. So the usual procedure was big nighttime snack, large injection of insulin. Cross your fingers that they work together through the night. But they don't, because the food still turns to glucose at the same rate. It's just more of it. So the spike is higher, but the duration is not longer. The translation of that is that at about 2 o'clock in the morning, the food runs out, the insulin is still working, your blood sugar drops, and you can slip from being asleep to being in a coma. Everybody follow that? Yeah, okay. So we held focus groups. Who knows what a focus group is? Jim, you've already talked. Who else knows what? And you have too. Nobody else in the room knows what a focus group is. All right, we got a winner over here. Thanks, Eric. What's a focus group?
It's basically when you have an idea or when you're working towards something, you want to do some sort of research. So the people who might be potential customers, you want to hear from them or take maximum information from them in order to drive your R&D more. Good. So the format is you invite a bunch of people in a room, they sit at a table, you have professional moderators, there are microphones around recording it, and there's a pane of one-way glass. You are behind the one-way glass, so you can watch, they can't see you. We held focus groups. And the moderator was doing a pretty good job, but after about the third or fourth, when I lost control of myself and popped out from behind the glass and said, you understand all the intellectual aspects of this, I can see that. What about the emotional aspects of this? Is there anything you're particularly afraid of? And they said, yeah, I'm afraid that I will die in my sleep. The fact is, I don't sleep in a bed anymore. I sleep in that recliner in my living room because I'm afraid if I get too comfortable, it's over. Well, that's gripping. So we cooked up a solution which we dubbed Night Bite. Formulation all turned into glucose at different times. Sucrose, protein, and uncooked cornstarch, which, by the way, are the ingredients in a birthday cake. But if you use those ingredients and mention diabetes, you're violating my patent. How about that? Right. This one did taste good, as opposed to Regain, which was, in fact, dreadful. We chose to give it a non-medical name and non-medical packaging. Why did we do that? I heard a voice. Right here. Thanks, Taylor.
My first thought is to make it fun, to make it appealing.
Good guess. Wrong. Thanks.
To reduce your liability.
Another good guess, also wrong.
To increase.
Hang on a sec. Go ahead, sir.
To not go through the pharmacy struggle again.
Say that again?
To not go through the pharmacy struggle again of putting.
Another good guess, also wrong. All right, we got a gentleman down front here, Eric. Oh, and we got this man while you're walking. Take it away.
To increase the target audience.
I'm sorry?
Like to increase the target audience so that like if it looked like a medicine, only patients would buy it, something like that.
You're getting close. You're getting close. Go ahead.
To have a positive association instead of like an illness association with the product.
Ooh, tell me more. Wasn't that in Greece? Tell me more, tell me more. Tell me more. What do you mean by that?
I mean, when you're buying medication, you always think about, okay, I have to fight an illness, have to fight a sickness, whatever. And when you buy something at the grocery store. It's like, yeah, this is a snack. This is something good, makes me happy.
All right, we're getting really close here. Thank you. Let me take it from here. Well, I went to Washington and I met with the FDA, and they were less relevant than the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC. And I was in the process of trying hard to persuade them, we were arm wrestling over this, that I should be able to say this product is for people with diabetes. And my customers said, Bob, if you do that, we won't buy your product. So I was working very hard, arguing with these governmental bureaucrats to do the very thing that would have killed the company. And I said, tell me more. They said, well, it's nobody's damn business whether or not I have diabetes, right? I mean, you get migraines, right? I mean, there are lots of people who have a health condition. I'm managing it. I don't think of myself as a diabetic. I'm a banker. I'm a lawyer. I'm a venture capitalist, whatever. I'm not a diabetic. And if I'm in a meeting and it's running long and I need to pull one of these bad boys out, I don't want to looking like I'm medicating. So, well, hush my mouth, as my southern relatives would say. I said, what should it look like? And they said, well, make it look like something that an elite athlete would consume. Make it taste good enough that I can share it with the other people at the table. And in fact, the parents of kids who had diabetes, type 1 diabetes, for those of you who know the field, their kids would want to go have sleepovers. And they would rather eat worms than look different from their friends. So when it came time for their nighttime snack, they could pull this out and say, hey, I'm having these, they're pretty good. Tastes kind of like a brownie, want one? No embarrassment. Thought, oh. The intersection of healthcare and consumer marketing looks like an energy bar. And in fact, we ended up selling some to marathon runners who said, I could use some timed release glucose. So this time around, we talked to clinicians, we talked to parents of kids, we talked to patients while we were formulating the product. We said, oh, this was funny. In a couple of these focus groups, I said, don't say anything, write this down. Where would you expect to buy this, and how much would you expect to pay for it? Send the papers up front. They fell into two clear buckets. Grocery store, 49 cents. Pharmacy, $1.25. 49 cents, $1.25. So, well, call me silly, I like pharmacies. Same product. The distribution channel you were getting to this affects the customer's perception of the product, right? We went to support group meetings, frequently in elementary schools. You may remember those little bitty chairs with the thingies that fold over so you can write on them, and you sit there feeling like an idiot because you did a lot of them. Oops. And we picked an ad agency that knew the field. So what happened? Well, at the time, people still read magazines. We ran ads in magazines. We started getting 100 calls a day. The ads said essentially, free sample. We were in Kendall Square. 238 Main Street, was that it, Joe? Yeah. A couple of companies stuffed in a ratty little office above a pharmacy. At 200 calls a day, we said, geez, we're going to need a staff to start answering the phones. Excuse me, you appear to be breathing. Would you like a job? I mean, Kendall Square had more geniuses per square foot than most places, so we figured odds were good. 300 calls a day, we said, good Lord, we need a bigger database. 500 calls a day, we said, I think we might be on to something. We hired an inside sales force, we trained them, and to go to the end of the story, we ended up in every major pharmacy chain in the country and did not pay a dime in slotting fees. So here's a question that I hope you won't get wrong. I'm sorry, a lesson. We understood our customers, and it helped us build a better product, and it helped us build a better business. So how do we reach them? Well, let's be honest. A fair number of people who have diabetes don't spend money taking care of themselves. And we weren't on a moral mission to say you should take better care of yourself. We wanted to build a company. We had to find the ones who would spend money. How did we find them? Who did they look to for advice? Well, it turns out there's a clinician called a certified diabetes educator. They have an association. Surprisingly enough, it's called the American Association of Diabetes Educators. They have tabs. Locate a CDE, and you type in 02142, and out pops all the people in the zip code for right here, along with contact information. So we said, well, what do they worry about? How can we help them? And we had a good answer for that, and the net of it was we ended up with about 3,000 highly credentialed sales reps working for us for free. I will tell you how we did that, but it was a pretty cool stunt. We were a starving startup. That's redundant. Sorry. This is an important concept that I wish I had a full evening to talk about. Who wins if you win? Who will be thrilled to see you succeed? Because your success and their success are linked. So a couple numbers. At the time, there were 15,000 CDEs in the country, and most of them were in the AADE. Once a month, usually Saturday mornings, they'd have a meeting of all the people in their patient group. They'd haul them all in. They'd talk about new advances, check in, how's your compliance doing? Bravo, you're doing great, et cetera. So there's a little bit of a, revival feeling to it. But they'd also talk about new products, new therapies, et cetera. So we called them up. I did. I said, what's your greatest professional frustration? What do you think the answer was? All by myself. We have someone up here. What do you think was their greatest professional frustration?
My guess would be if they're diabetes educators, they would educate, but their students would not listen. Like having people not want to take care of themselves, that would be probably pretty annoying as an educator.
You're getting close. There's a word I'm looking for. You're on the right track right here. Go ahead, sir.
I think you wrote it, but it's something novel or new or outside of the everyday presentation.
That's a very reasonable speculation. Happens not to be the right answer. So, their greatest professional frustration is I tell them what to do and they don't do it. You were right at the verge of it. They call it patient compliance. We said, well, what if we could help you with that? How would you feel about something that was developed by docs at Harvard Med School, tastes great, patients love it, and they will thank you for recommending it? Are you kidding? I'd have your babies. No, I don't want more babies. But yes, I would certainly go for it. So we ended up with this high quality sales force because we gave them what they wanted. They would have been offended if we had offered them money. I'm a healer. I care about my patients. I said, well, we can help you do even better job caring for your patients. They loved it. So what would end up happening is they would set up this Saturday morning meeting. I made a bunch of these phone calls. I'd say, well, when's your next one? They'd say a week and a half. You got all the content you need for the meeting? Now you know the answer to that. No. Well, can I send you some samples and some literature? I mean, you have to make up your own mind about the science, of course, but yeah, send it to me. And if I like the science, I'll distribute the samples. I said, well, if you do, patients are going to have 3 questions for you. First is, how's it taste? You can hand out the samples and say, make up your own mind. Second question is going to be, how much does it cost? Answer is $1 a bar. Third question is, where can I get it? And I'm guessing you have a neighborhood pharmacy or 2 that you send your patients to. Well, I do. I send it to Hadzima's pharmacy. Well, can I call up Mr. Hadzima and tell him that I'm going to be sending some stuff to you, and with any luck, you're going to be sending your patients to his pharmacy to buy a product that he doesn't have? Oh my God, yes. In fact, call that rascal up and tell him to get in here. I sent him enough business that he ought to be able to say that to his patients himself. So pharmacists all agreed to take the product. No mention of slotting fees. So here was the business model. Initially, we would call the educators. The educators would tell the patients. The patients would buy from us. And we made a few dollars, not much. We said, well, time to get into the retailers. But that's expensive. Slotting fees, et cetera. So how about if the educators call Hadzima's pharmacy, and then the patients come and demand something that the pharmacist doesn't have? By the way, it's worth pointing out that patients with diabetes are worth a lot more to a pharmacist than most of the rest of us who pop in to buy a greeting card and some toothpaste. They buy glucose monitors, strips, insulin, et cetera. They're kind of high-value patients. So they hate having people with diabetes come in and say, oh, you don't have what I want? I'm leaving. And then if we call the retailer, we might be able to make much more money. Now, of note, for those of you who are thinking of building a business, we just redefined our customer. Yes? Okay. So how'd this work? Well, somehow or other, we ended up on some list that said we were handing out free brownies. And no, we were not. We get a zillion phone calls for people who are not qualified. So we had to find a qualifying question. Typically, it was, tell me what brand of insulin you usually use. And if they say, huh? We'd say, sorry, we don't have anything for you. If they gave a proper answer, we'd send them a sample. We'd call them up. We'd say, did you get it? Yep. Now, an important distinction. Who knows the difference between an open-ended question and a close-ended question? Yes, sir.
I mean, a closed-ended question often just has answers like yes or no, which then necessitates another question to get more detail out, whereas open-ended questions like what and how tend to give people more space to actually give you the information you're looking for in the first place.
That's exactly right. A closed-ended question can also close the conversation. If we had called these folks up and said, well, did you like it? And they said, no. Well, now what? Right? So we said, well, what were your reactions? Open-ended. Say, well, I don't think it tasted very good. Anything else? Yeah, it worked great. Anything else? Yeah, I'd like to reorder. Right? So if you ever are involved, and if you're going to build a business, I believe you will be involved in interviewing prospective customers. Open-ended questions. Let them talk. Okay? So we said, well, we're going to continue doing this free shipping for a bit longer. Would you care to order? Oh my goodness, our records show that you're about to be out. Isn't it time to reorder? So We built a pretty good collection of customers, considering we were a raggedy little startup here in Kendall Square. So one day we said, okay, time to make the leap into pharmacies. We called our customers and said, we're not going to do any more of this free shipping. Wouldn't it be more easy, more convenient for you to buy it where you buy your insulin? Why, yes, it would. Well, where would that be? Well, that's Buzz's pharmacy. All right, I'm going to call Buzz and say, Buzz, oh, by the way, remember, Buzz answers the phone like this. Pharmacy. I clocked it one day. I think I figured out I had 12 seconds. Buzz, I just talked to 10 of your customers who want to buy our product for diabetes and you don't stock it. I'd like to help you with that. What? Who is this? Off we'd go. And they'd say, well, Bob, it sounds intriguing. That's lovely. But we have to have corporate approval. I mean, we're a Walgreens, right? And so I'd say, I know. But I'm guessing that there's a $1 threshold below which you can buy without needing anybody's permission. And I'm betting that it's $100. Well, yeah, actually, that's true. Well, you'll be pleased to know, Buzz, that our starter kit costs $99.95. And if it doesn't sell, you don't need to ship it back to us. We will take your word for it. Throw it in the trash. We'll refund your money. No risk for you. Well, all right, let's do your starter kit. Then, of course, we'd call up all of the customers and say, you got to get your butt over to Buzz's pharmacy and buy this stuff. And then we'd wait about a week and we'd call Buzz and we'd say, Buzz, we just want to make sure that you got it. We know we shipped it. We want to make sure you got it. Buzz would say, well, hold on a minute. Let me go look. My God, it's already sold. Really? Imagine that. Well, pretty soon we ended up corporate headquarters, et cetera, and nobody ever mentioned slotting fees. Suddenly, we're in all the Walgreens, all the CVSs, et cetera. We essentially, and this may strike you as a little perverse, we essentially accumulated a group of customers and sold those customers to the retail pharmacies, right? So when they would happen to mention slotting fees, I said, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not paying you to build the business. I already did that. You're making enough money. So, in we went. Who knows what SKU stands for? Stock keeping unit. Thank you. The average retail pharmacy has about 8,000 stock keeping units. They do not want to get 8,000 invoices each month. So they aggregate all that stuff in a wholesaler who comes in at 10 o'clock at night with those big Tupperware bins. The cat food goes here and the greeting cards go here and they get one invoice. We said, well, we're doing pretty well with the retailers. We can really escalate this thing if we can get into wholesalers. But if you think retailers don't care that much about patient health, wait till you talk to wholesalers. So note that once again, we redefined our customer. And I don't think I have time left to walk you through the shenanigans that I did to get us into wholesalers. But I essentially rounded up a bunch of pharmacies and sold them to the wholesalers. But I will tell you a story that I think is useful regarding negotiating. We got a letter one day, like from the post with a stamp on it. Major pharmacy chain in the Southeast. We are drawing up our planogram for the new year. If you'd like to be on it, come to a 15-minute meeting in South Florida. So who knows what a planogram is? Up here? I know, but you won't make it onto the recording. So let's, if we'll take a second and throw you a microphone. I apologize.
It's the retailer's essential map of a shelf that shows
That's exactly
where they
right.
stock everything.
They spend a lot of time figuring out which items ought to be at eye level, which ones should be down here, what section of the store, which is why you find that an awful lot of CVSs look the same. You know, it's the White House calling me again. They were drawing up their planogram for the coming year, trying to figure out, or offering an opportunity for us to be on the planogram. So I called a few people and said, what's up with this? Who are we meeting with? And I said, well, you're meeting with a guy named Jeff. Well, what's his job? I said, you don't want his job, at least not for that week. He's going to spend all week listening to one presentation after another, 15 minutes apart, from people who are going to try and persuade him that their product ought to be on his planogram. I said, how is he evaluated? He's evaluated on how much money he can extort from these vendors in slotting fees. I thought, well, you know what? I'm feeling pugnacious. We don't have any money. We're not going to give him any money. But let's go to the meeting. So 2 of us, head of marketing and I, flew to Florida. And when we sat in the lobby of this place, you would have thought you were in Cirque du Soleil or something. There are people in there with big end caps and all sorts of fancy things. And I'll pick up your dry cleaning. My assistant will walk your dog. Please, can we be on your shelves? We're just sitting there with a briefcase. So when our 15 minutes came, I said, Jeff, this isn't going to be like any of the other presentations you've gotten this week because we don't have any money and we're not going to give you a nickel. But we propose to take 5 minutes and tell you who we are, 5 minutes to tell you about our fabulous product, and 5 minutes to tell you why you want us in here anyway. And he looked like, well, you know, I could use a break actually. So he literally sat back, stretched out, and said, it's your 15-minute sport, take it away. So first 5 minutes, oh, you know, Harvard Med School and great science. And the next 5 minutes, product uniquely designed, da, 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 da. Last 5 minutes. Said, we have been selling our product to consumers. And we started pulling paper out of the briefcase. These are lists of the consumers that are buying our product now in the states where you have pharmacies. There's 10,000 of them. We're not going to ship anymore. All 10,000 have the same question. Which retailer can I go to buy this product? How would you like us to answer their question? There's sort of a guideline in negotiating that when you're in a situation like that, the next person who speaks loses. So we reached into the briefcase and pulled out a roll of duct tape and sat there, and we let him think about it. Damn near killed us. He said, it took like a minute. And if you don't think that's a long time, hold your breath. He said, okay, you're in. So, big dinner for us that night. No mention of slotting fees. Okay, so results. Sales grew impressively. Reorder rate. That is the holy grail, my friends. The one incontrovertible evidence that you have a satisfied customer is if they come back and buy it again. We got an extraordinarily high reorder rate. We got a lot of publicity. got a number of offers to buy the company, and eventually sold it to a billion-dollar pharmaceutical firm. Rather a different ending than from Regain. So, I have lots of scars on my poor old bedraggled, dilapidated body from all of these experiences I've been through. I think I've learned a few lessons, frequently, painfully. Help me summarize them. What should I have learned from these two experiences that I can apply to my next business venture? And of course, if there's a peripheral chance that you might find them useful, all the better. Oh, never mind about you. What about me? What should I have learned from this? Yes, sir.
Identifying your customers.
Say that again?
Identifying your customers.
Identifying your customers. Yes, clearly very important. What else? Eric, you got two up. Go ahead, sir.
If you profoundly understand the incentives of your clientele and the distributors and middlemen, you will definitely save on the distribution and you will find the way to make them converge so you would win and they would win and the customers would win. So like triple win.
Let me paraphrase that. You need to understand not only the economics, but also the emotions driving their decision making. And if you can make it easy and attractive for them, you're halfway there already. Yes, sir.
Might be a little cynical, but you learned the lesson that Big Tech learned. You made more money productizing your customers than selling your product.
Well, I think that's true. We productized our customers as a vehicle to sell more product. So, yes, in the early days, we did make more from bundling the customers and selling them. Ultimately, the one outgrew the other. So, good. Up here, yes, sir.
You weren't afraid to change your customer over time, and that clearly showed success in your second company.
Our customer definition changed as the business evolved. I said what you said, I just changed the language slightly, but that's exactly right. Yes.
You also helped inform the customer in the sense of discovery of your product. And as that buying path changed, the way you went about informing the customer also evolved.
They would not have believed us. We're lying entrepreneurs. Again, that's redundant. But they certainly believe the diabetes educators. And so in today's world, we would call them influencers. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for sharing the war stories. I think the most delightful thing to think about is when you win, who else wins? Because both in the diabetes and in the wholesale, you very carefully thought about if you win, who else wins, and then you got them to be on your team for free. It's brilliant. Thank you for sharing that idea.
You have just 2 hours to stop talking that way. You're welcome. Well, honestly, if there were an opportunity, I would spend a good 45 minutes or an hour on that topic, because we set up a conduit where the patients were better off. The diabetes educators got what they wanted. The retailers ended up with a steady return flow of high-value customers. We built a good business. The acquiring company was happy. I mean, it was all who wins if we win. So thank you. Thank you.
Mine was that your unique selling point doesn't have to be direct. Like, you just don't go and say, hey, you have hypoglycemia, take this pill. It's like you're going around it and you're technically not telling them the actual unique selling point.
I'm going to elaborate on you poor people have to suffer through me 2 more sessions, I'm sorry to say. Next week, we're going to talk about pitching. And on Thursday night of next week, if any of you are still here, I'm bringing in an electric guitar and a little ratty looking amplifier. And I'm going to talk about the blueprint for innovation. Because I think playing music in an improvisational ensemble is a spectacularly apt metaphor for what it takes to do innovation with collaborators. But in the spirit of what you were saying, where we started didn't have to be where we ended up. And we didn't say, you have this, buy our product. We said, we can help you solve this problem. We were selling not a product, we were selling a solution to a problem. They were worried they were going to die in their sleep. Or even more grippingly, that their 8-year-old Jessica would die in her sleep. Right? Okay. Know your customers intimately?
One question.
One more, all right.
So, as you were going from first direct sales, then to the pharmacy, then to the wholesalers, you were eroding your margin. So you have enough growth in demand to make up for that shrinking price of selling. So you have, I mean, the business was growing.
No, there was financial analysis and margin calculations and a fair amount of falderall involved in doing all of that so that everybody had a bite of the apple and made a little money. So yes, we made the product for a quarter. We sold it for $1. There was enough room in there for everybody to get some. Okay, know your customers intimately. Your target customer may change as your business evolves. Products that are for everyone aren't for anyone. If a prospective investor says, who is this for? And you say, everybody, meeting's over. All right? You have to position it. And remember, nobody needs your product. Nobody needs your service. I don't need these glasses. I need to see better. Right? I hired glasses. Some of you hired contact lenses, and I bet you know somebody who hired the doc to do the LASIK surgery. Right? Solve the problem. If there's one slide that I hope you remember from tonight, it's this one. Who knows what market segmentation is? Okay, we don't have time for me to drag this out. I'll answer the question. Typically, you slice the market up into chunks to figure out who is most likely to buy your product. If you're in consumer packaged goods, the typical thought process is we want households with a minimum household income of $80,000 a year, perhaps more, where the woman does the shopping, and it's a woman between the ages of 25 and 40. So that's who we're going to target our advertising to, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I will argue that for you, that's all wrong. You should be segmenting according to motivation. Who wants to solve this problem badly enough that they will find you? So let's say that Taylor and I have invented a product that makes sure you do not have a second heart attack. So if you have a first heart attack and you die, well, you're not our customer. But if you survive, you really don't want to have another one. So you're feeling the pain right now. Now, say that I'm your brother. I've got the same family history, same DNA, all that stuff. I'm worried. Say I'm one of your buds. We're approximately the same age. I might be keeping an eye out. But I've seen a lot of companies say, well, look at all the people in the bottom part of that pyramid. And my response is, forget it. That's a graveyard. They are not worried about heart attacks. They're college kids. They're bulletproof, right? So start at the top. 2 reasons. You can start to generate revenue. And 2, if you can't succeed there, you don't have a good, viable business idea. Find something else. Changing buying habits is hard. Pain is quite motivating. Fear, quite motivating. Greed, yep. Vanity, But virtue, vitamin pills, that's a tough sell. So obviously with Regain, their reward was the doctor would pat them on the back every 6 months and say, your triglycerides look good. So find out who's going to want what you've got, figure out how to find them, take their money. I love marketing, but you can spend years taking courses in marketing, I'm going to spare you all of that and boil it down to 2 points. Find out what your customers want and give it to them. I mean, there's a lot of sophisticated multivariate factor analysis, yada, yada stuff. If you forget these 2 points, I fear for you. I think rather than blast through all of this, because I may well be sending you guys the slides. Yeah, we've covered all this. Next Tuesday, I'm going to be running a session on pitching and presenting, and I will invite those of you who are brave to come up front, no slides, deliver a pitch. It's a risk-free environment because even if you do a complete face plan amongst your fellow students, so what, right? You may get some valuable advice from the audience, maybe even from me. So bring your pitch. I think what I'd like to do for the last couple minutes is turn it over to you. I have one summary slide finally, but prior to that, do you guys have any questions or comments before we wrap this up? It's getting late, you're probably tired and hungry, unlike me. But here's your chance. What should we have talked about that we didn't? Final questions? All the way in the back from our one repeat customer. We love our reorders. Stand by. We got a sprinter bringing you a microphone.
Thank you so much.
Go ahead.
I think during when you're finding
You need
your
to point the
customers,
thank you. One more time.
when you're finding your customers, creating that survey about what questions to ask, those open-ended questions, maybe going a little bit more into detail about examples of what those could be.
Well, that's a tall order. But I think the most important questions are, tell me about this issue you're wrestling with. Tell me the consequences of that issue. Consequences could just be, well, I'm out of orange juice. I got to do without orange juice at breakfast until I can get to the grocery store. It's not really all that serious. On the other hand, I'm worried that my child will die. That's real serious. So tell me about your concern. Tell me the consequences of that concern, and tell me what you're doing about it now. And how satisfied, open-ended question, how satisfied are you with what you're doing now? And they'll say, I love this, I hate this, I wish I could have that. There's your business plan. I'll send you that. Okay, last, summary. You got to have customers. It's the only non-negotiable requirement. Forget the technology, all that stuff. You have to have customers. If your business is going to succeed, you must provide something that is valuable and unique to someone. So figure out who wants what you have, find them and tell them about it, take their money. Thank you very much. Thank you.